Morning, class. As we move on to our week for informative speaking, we got a lot to do. So far, everything's looking good. You guys have done pretty well. The intro speeches were solid. Um, Discussion board was good. Now we got our quiz coming up. We've got a couple more discussion boards as we move through this semester. And we've got our informative speech, as you know it, coming up this week and is due this weekend. Also, you've got your quiz that's due this weekend as well. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. In regard to informative speaking, as you see in the syllabus, it's probably one of the most thought about speeches in this class. It's one of those speeches that if you know something specific that you want to teach us or inform us about, it's a great opportunity to do it. You can be confident. You can come out here and submit a video that's very, very, very informational and very focused towards the audience or towards myself as your audience. It's something that'll allow you to use what you know to show others how to do certain things or how to approach certain things. One thing I would say to avoid: don't go into too much research. Yes, you do have to have sources. Yes, you do have to have APA cited citations within this paper. You also have to have an outline, but one thing I would highly suggest avoiding is trying to turn it into a research paper. So for instance, if I'm talking about, like the example I posted on our classroom site, if I'm talking about being a mechanic and I'm talking about the differences in one engine versus another, I'm not going to sit and do a ton of research on one engine versus the other engine and just put out a bunch of facts. No, I'm going to take what I know, my opinions as well, and include that within those specific things. So for instance, if I'm talking about torque, I'm gonna use that as one of my main points. This engine produces more torque than this engine. If I'm talking about overall performance, I'm going to talk about this one versus that one, and then my third point would be safety. All right, this one versus that one, or durability. So as you do it, make sure you pick out those main points that you really want to talk about. So for instance, if I'm talking about coaching baseball, point number one, building a relationship. Point number two would be being able to teach skills at a high level, and point number three would be the development side of trying to get players to where they need to be. So those would be my three main points and why it's important and how to do those things. That's one thing you really have to focus on within this speech, is how to do things. So you're informing us on something, whether you're teaching us how to talk to people, or you're teaching us how to build something, or you're teaching us how something works, that's how you will move through this speech. Like I said, the outline will be due. Make sure you go onto our on the classroom site, pull up the outline sheet, and fill it out. Pay attention to what I've posted in the past. Pay attention to what we've talked about. All right? It's a formal outline, so you need to have your topic, your thesis, your main points, your sub points. You need to have the conclusion. You need to have any supporting material. You need to know exactly where your sources come from, and they got to be in APA format. All right. One thing I will say about this one, like I said in the beginning of the class, if you use the research papers, you don't have to have the APA cited citations on your outline. If you don't use the research papers, you have to have a list of the sources you used in APA format. Also, if you are using the research papers, at the bottom of the research, so you'll see all those questions and all the points that are within the research paper, at the bottom you will do an APA cited citation for that specific article or that specific whatever you use. So that's one thing that will be very, very, very imperative as you move through. On this one, you'll be submitting your video, and you'll be submitting your supporting information, whether it's the outline, which it has to be the outline, but submitting the outline and submitting the research sheets if you did the research sheets. Also, if you want to submit any other supporting material, that works perfectly fine. This one, like I said, is we're going to need visual aids are required in this one, also in the next speech. And as we move forward, so you got to be able to use those and use them effectively. When you're doing a video, when you're doing a video speech and you're having to use a visual aid, for instance, I'm going to take and I'm going to talk about how my watch is charged with this charger. All right, guess what? I just used 2 visual aids right there. That's how simple it is. It's not. Don't overthink it. Don't bring into some detail, some elaborate, overdrawn background or anything like that. Make it simple. All right. If you're teaching us about how 2 parts come together and work as one, guess what? Show us those parts. Show how they work and talk about it as you move through. Now, if you're doing something teaching, coaching, or something like that, a little bit more difficult because it's not hands-on. It's not one point to another. So you would end up having to use something such as a paper with statistics on it, or a dry erase board behind me, or a board behind me that I can draw and write on, or that I already have some stuff written on there. That's a visual aid. It's just something that draws attention to the audience. All right, I'll be looking for that attention and that effective use of visual aids. All right, don't just come in and present the beginning of your speech and have a visual aid sitting behind you without you actively using it. Make sure you are using it and using it in good detail. All right, practice this speech. Really practice it, because if you don't practice it, I can guarantee you're going to struggle a little bit. So know what you're trying to hit on, know the points that you're moving through, be confident in what you do, and you'll be perfectly fine. All right, no question about it. You'll be perfectly fine with this one. So stay on track, keep focused. Like I said, like I always say, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. My phone is always on. I'll be quick to respond to emails as well. So look forward to all these speeches coming in this week. Don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great week.